So we are about to start.
A big event, Black Wealth Empowerment, right? So panelists, the floor is yours, our moderators. Let's get deep into this convo. Let's listen. Let's absorb some information. Let's learn. Let's grow. Let's be empowered.
So the first question for our panelists is, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur and what motivated you to start your own business? So I'm just going in chronological order that I see on my screen here. We'll start with Corey.
What started me? Well, I didn't like the structure of just working. I remember working at Foot Locker one time when I was really young. And I'm like, I sold, maybe like 4 or 5 pairs of Jordans, a few other items, and it came up to $2,000. And I'm looking at my paycheck and I'm like, well, if I'm selling $2,000 every single day for something that, I know how to get the product for, and they're only paying me $15 an hour, I figured that like I can do something like that for myself, right? So just understanding the numbers and understanding that, I can sell and that I can put a business around me selling made me want to be an entrepreneur. I also come from a background of entrepreneurs, Beetle family, where we've had farms back in the day in Jamaica, and just all sorts of things, supermarkets. My mom had a patty place, my grandma had a patty place in Jamaica back in the 80s and the early 90s. So just being around entrepreneurs, understanding what entrepreneurship is all about just made me, want to continue to drive to try to, achieve success because, with the right information, everything is possible because I've seen it firsthand, first knowledge, and me being able to see it and see it successfully made me be like, okay, I can do this too.
All right, great. What about you, Sue? Sue knows business. I mean, we definitely have to hear that story.
Hey everyone. What made me want to be an entrepreneur? So from when I was in high school, I started to sell candy, and I used to go to Buffalo with my sister and bought a big bag of candy, and I used to make $50. That's big money back then, $50 for each bag. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, same thing with Corey. If I could flip this bag of candy, make $50 off of each bag, man, I could be rich. So that was back in high school. I've worked many places, and I was a flight attendant for 9 years. And even as dynamic as that job is, I fell out of love with it. I wouldn't feel engaged. And so I started my first business as a decorator, and I started my own event planning. And I just love the dynamic of running my own business. I also come from a long list of entrepreneurs in my family. Three of my uncles own a shipping company to the Caribbean, and the kind of money that I see them make is just so inspiring. And quite frankly, I don't really like anyone telling me what to do. So I figured, you know what? Hey man, might as well be my own boss. So I started my own business, had a few. Suno's business is one of my current businesses that I'm running. I'm also running a Lindsay Lounge. I opened that a year ago. On Friday, it'll be 1 year that I've been open, and I just love it. It's a lot of hard work, but there's different kind of rewards that you get from being your own entrepreneur. You can get up and go whenever you like if you have the right system, the right team behind you, and I love that freedom.
So what's inspired you to become an entrepreneur, and what motivated you to start your own business?
So for me, I was inspired far back at, I think when I was in uni, back in Nigeria. So I'm from a family so my mom especially, I was really close to my mom. She's into textile business. And my dad, he's a policeman growing up. He got to the highest level, but growing up, even though he got to the highest level, people know him and all of that, it was still my mom that hold down the family financially, right? Because she is still into the business. I see how she handled money. I was exposed to her business at a very young age. And it got me thinking while I was young that if my dad can be at this level and still financially, it's still my mom that holds things down, right? Not because he has and he doesn't want to, contribute, but he's on salary base. But my mom, she was into business, and she actually knew how to work with money, how to multiply what she makes and all of that. So I got that from her. When I got into uni, then I started using my, my allowance to do business, sending money to my brothers abroad to ship shoes and and clothes down to me so I can sell to my colleagues. And that actually helped me for me to have that financial freedom while I was in school, because I wasn't depending solely on my allowance. So it helped me to start saving and start venturing into other business that actually put me on another level financially while I was in school. So by the time I got to my final year, I knew clearly that I was not going to go to 9 to 5, because I could see the result from what I've done with the little I've made from the business in school. And I just told myself that, what, I need to continue to improve this and transition that into my career once I'm done with school.
So the next question, thank you guys all for the amazing answers you just gave. The next question, I want to start off with Edwina. Like, I love what she's doing, how she's empowering women and just that power boss that she is. So Edwina, how has your identity as a Black entrepreneur influenced your journey, and what unique advantages or disadvantages have you faced?
Absolutely. So first off, Richard, thank you so much for hosting this fantastic event. I'm super excited to be here. So my identity as a Black entrepreneur, and I'm going to speak to being a hybrid Black entrepreneur, it's really influenced my journey in several ways. Firstly, being a Black entrepreneur means that I have to work harder to prove myself and overcome these preconceived notions, especially as a Black woman, that others may not, have to overcome. And this has really pushed me to be even more determined and focused on my goals, right? So on the other hand, being a Black entrepreneur has also given me a lot of unique advantages. And, I bring different perspectives to the table. And I'm able to tap into a market that is underserved and overlooked. And this has really allowed me to identify and address, the needs and the opportunities that others may have missed, right? So leading to an innovative way of doing things when it comes to business ideas. And, Black entrepreneur also means that we have to face a lot of disadvantages. And I'm going to talk on this because last year I actually went through this personally, but accessing capital and funding, for my business, especially last year, was really difficult due to systemic racism. And there's a lot of bias that happens within the financial industry, even going to applying for grants. Most of our Black businesses are considered nano businesses, which is high risk. So it's really hard for us to connect with, potential partners, investors, and customers to want to connect with us. But I am going to say, despite these challenges, I am committed to building a successful business and making a positive impact in my community. And those that follow me on this journey know that I identify as a Black woman, but I am shaped by resilience, right? When I look at my mom, right, I always go back to my personal story of when I grew up. We grew up in a 2-bedroom, and Richard could attest, like he was down the block from us, but we grew up in a 2-bedroom, around 8 to sometimes 13 of us in one condo unit. So when we talk about, okay, as a Black woman, as a Black entrepreneur, we have resilience, right? So I'm determined to raise the standards. I'm determined to make sure that, whatever I'm identifying with is not going to be held against me.
Amazing. I love that. I love that, because I know that there are people right now in here probably that can resonate and kind of understand exactly what you're talking about. So, and with what you just said, maybe Francis can also touch on that as well. What are some challenges that you faced, right? In your, how has your identity as a Black entrepreneur or even a Black woman in that political space influenced your journey? And what are some advantages and disadvantages or things that you face that have become kind of like a barrier?
Yeah, it's probably a really big question for a career that's in politics. I think being a Black woman has been a blessing and a curse when it comes to politics. And so I have really looked at it as I've gotten older and become more experienced, as how can I open up opportunities for more community members? So that's where a lot of my focus has been, because the barrier has been, there's not enough of us in this space. And so, you get people challenging the notions around the Black identity and Black voting, ideas around voting and, political engagement, and a lot of misinformation around our community. So that's been a huge barrier, when you're often the only person in the room, having to constantly be the one to speak up on these issues of equity and representation. But it's also created an opportunity to grow allies for our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because it's so important, because you're in there, right? So your perspective is so valuable. And lastly, Mama Pearl, because you've had a lot of hats throughout the years, right? So
That's
how
correct.
has your identity, because I like this question, because a lot of us are afraid to identify as a Black entrepreneur. Right? When we get into certain spaces, like we want to pretend like we're not Black, but we are, right? How has that influenced your journey? And what are some barriers, some advantages and disadvantages that you faced along the way?
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Well, for me, being a Black woman, coming back to Canada, I moved to Canada in the late 90s, early 90s. I lived here for 6 years, and then we moved to Dallas, Texas. We were there for 15 years, and then I returned to Canada, and I discovered that there was not a place for a Black woman in terms of dietetics and nutrition. I came back as a registered dietitian. I applied for 60 jobs. I had 2 interviews, and I didn't get a position. So I have a little saying that my grandmother used, that when life gives you lemon, make lemonade. So I decided I would start my own business. And, so necessity is the mother of invention for me. Had to feed my family. I had to get out there and market myself. So I started my own business and I marketed myself, was able to get into the clinics of a few doctors that I still work for, along with doing private consultation. And I just don't regret the fact that I came to Canada and no one hired me, because now I have something that can take me to, I say, forever. I don't see retirement. I love what I do. And I know that health is wealth, because without health, we can't achieve much. So I am really excited that I have my own business. I do work another job. I do teach in the classroom here in Durham. It's culinary arts, so I do enjoy that. But I'm not a permanent teacher. And it's because I'm a Black woman. So, but I'm using my Blackness to empower myself. And it is working out, because I'm having a lot of joy from running my own business. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What did she say? She said, I'm using my Blackness to empower myself. Like, y'all, that's like a hashtag right there, right? I'm using my Blackness to empower myself. And I believe that all of us should use that, because our Blackness is a power. Sometimes we get into rooms and it becomes undermined, but it is power. And we have to consistently walk into it. So I will hand it. Thank you all so much for answering. That was amazing. How are you guys enjoying the conversation so far?